Professor Zilk'thar slithered onto the elevated platform at the front of the auditorium, his 6 limbs moving in perfect coordination as he adjusted the position of his academic sash. The emerald fabric, denoting his expertise in primitive species studies, contrasted sharply with his mottled purple skin. "Today, cadets," he announced with theatrical gravity, "we explore the most outlandish chapter in human mythological warfare, the ghost of Saturn." He tapped a claw against the holographic projector, summoning an image of a sleek angular vessel. A ripple of laughter spread across the tiered classroom. "Something amusing, Cadet Grexmore." Zilk'thar's eye stalk swiveled toward a stocky, armor-plated student in the 3rd row. "Apologies, Professor," Grexmore snorted, mandibles clicking with barely contained mirth. "It's just humans and their compensatory fantasies. Next you'll tell us they ride into battle on fire-breathing reptiles." "That's dragons, and those are definitely myths," called out another cadet, triggering another wave of chittering laughter. Professor Zilk'thar allowed a patient smile. "The distinction between human mythology and history has always been problematic. Their tendency toward hyperbole is well documented." He gestured dramatically toward the projection. "According to admittedly dubious human records, the vessel designated the Ghost of Saturn disappeared during the Great Solar Conflict of 2387, taking with it an experimental propulsion system and weapons platform." "Disappeared?" A voice from the back row cut through the ambient chatter. The classroom turned to look at Vex'loria, her translucent exoskeleton shifting to a thoughtful blue hue. "Disappeared how, exactly?" "Ah, excellent question," Zilk'thar brightened. "According to human historical databases, which, I remind you, are notoriously unreliable, the vessel was surrounded by 3 Hegemony battlecruisers in the rings of Saturn. Just as capture seemed inevitable, the ship allegedly phased out of conventional reality." "Phase shifting?" Grexel scoffed. "Even we haven't mastered that technology, and we're centuries ahead of human development." "Precisely why this belongs in our mythological warfare curriculum rather than actual history," Zilk'thar agreed. "The humans insist the technology was based on principles of quantum displacement and—" "Oh, please," interrupted a multi-aid cadet near the front. "Next they'll claim it could turn invisible and shoot rainbow beams." Vex'loria's carapace flushed a frustrated orange. "But has anyone actually investigated the disappearance? The humans maintain significant territorial presence in the Saturnian system. Perhaps there's—" "Oh, Vex is defending the monkeys again," Grexmore called out. "Planning to defect and grow some fur, Vex?" The classroom erupted in mocking trills and clicks. "Order!" Zilk'thar rapped his lecturing staff on the floor. "While Cadet Vex'loria's excessive curiosity about primitive species is noted, her question is academically valid." His tone softened condescendingly. "The answer, however, is simple. The Ghost of Saturn is nothing more than human psychological warfare, a story designed to instill doubt in superior species." He advanced to the next slide, showing theoretical schematics. These supposed impossible technologies include adaptive metamaterials that absorb energy weapons, biologically integrated systems that self-repair, and, most absurdly, a phantom drive, allowing it to partially exist in multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. The classroom burst into fresh peals of laughter. "Utterly preposterous," Zilk'thar concluded with smug certainty. "Even if such a vessel existed, which it most certainly does not, it would represent a technological leap of approximately 300 years beyond current human capabilities." 16 light-years away, Admiral Mackenzie Collins stood before the viewport of what appeared to be an ordinary human cargo vessel. Behind the weathered lines of her face lay calculating eyes that had witnessed more battles than most species had history. She sipped from a chipped mug emblazoned with "I Saturn" as a junior officer approached with a datapad. "The Hegemony intercepted the Bateman. Their tactical response exactly matches our predictions." Collins nodded, watching distant stars with the patience of a predator. "And the ghost?" "Calibration complete. The old girl's hungry after hiding for so long." A thin smile crossed the Admiral's face as she tapped her mug against the viewport in a toast to the void. If only they knew what was hiding under their noses. The Hegemony battlecruiser Inevitable Victory cut through the darkness of deep space like a knife through inferior species defenses, which was, incidentally, its primary function. As the flagship of the 7th Expeditionary Fleet, it represented everything the Hegemony stood for: technological superiority, biological optimization, and unshakable confidence in their rightful dominance over the galaxy. Commander Draz'Kul stood on the command deck, 8 feet of armored exoskeleton and self-importance. His carapace had been polished to a mirror shine, reflecting the soft blue glow of tactical displays. 5 separate campaign medals adorned his thoracic ridge. 3 of them earned in conflicts against the human-led alliance. "Status report," he demanded, purely for the pleasure of hearing subordinates respond to his voice. "All systems optimal, Commander," chirped a navigation officer. "We are maintaining patrol pattern Delta 9 along the contested boundary. No sign of alliance activity in this sector for 27 cycles." Draz'Kul emitted a satisfied clicking sound from his mandibles. The humans had been unusually quiet lately. Perhaps they were finally accepting the inevitable. That a loose coalition of emotional primates could never stand against the unified might of 7 advanced species who had evolved beyond such primitive constraints as empathy and work-life balance. "Commander," called Officer Teeve from the communications station. Unlike Draz'Kul's imposing build, Teeve belonged to a more diminutive species, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern and skin that shifted colors with mood. Currently a concerned purple. "We're receiving a distress signal from monitoring station Epsilon 12. "Impossible," Draz'Kul dismissed without even looking. "That station is fully automated with redundant systems. It's clearly a sensor malfunction." "Respectfully, sir," Teeve persisted, "the signal contains the correct authentication codes, and it's using emergency protocol frequencies that aren't typically—" "Did your species evolve without auditory organs, Officer Teeve?" Draz'Kul interrupted. "I said it's a malfunction. Log it and continue patrol." Teeve's skin flushed a determined orange. "Commander, Hegemony Protocol 733B clearly states that all authenticated distress signals must be investigated, especially from installations near contested space. The humans have been known to—" "Oh, very well," Draz'Kul snapped, mandibles clicking in irritation. "Alter course to Epsilon 12. But when we discover it's merely a faulty transmission relay, your efficiency rating will reflect this waste of resources." 4 hours later, the Inevitable Victory glided into position alongside monitoring station Epsilon 12A, utilitarian structure of interconnected modules designed to monitor Alliance ship movements through a nearby transit corridor. "Scans indicate all structural integrity intact," reported the sensor officer. "No signs of damage or forced entry. Power systems functioning normally." "As I predicted," Draz'Kul said smugly. "A waste of—" "Sir," interrupted the communications officer, "the station isn't responding to any hails, and something strange. We're detecting life signs, but they're static." Draz'Kul's antennae twitched with the first flicker of concern. "Lie static." "They're alive, sir, but not moving at all." The boarding party, led by Officer Teeve, reported findings that defied explanation. The station's 12 crew members were found at their posts, completely frozen in positions of apparent terror. Medical scans showed normal life signs. Their hearts beat, their lungs functioned, but not a single voluntary muscle moved. "It's as if they've been—" Paused, Teeve reported over the comm. "Their expressions—" "Sir, I've never seen fear like this." "Check the station logs," ordered Draz'Kul, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. "That's another anomaly, Commander. All logs from the past 72 hours have been wiped, except," Teeve hesitated, "except for an audio file, repeating on all channels." "Play it," commanded Draz'Kul. Through the comm system came a simple, haunting sound, someone whistling a jaunty tune. "It appears to be a human sea shanty," Teeve said, "specifically, Drunken Sailor, dating to their pre-space maritime era." As the boarding party prepared to return to the ship, The sensor officer's voice cut through the uncomfortable silence on the command deck. "Commander, small object approaching the station from Sector 227. Defensive systems online," barked Draz'Kul. "Sir, it's a toy," reported the baffled officer. "A small replica of a human vessel." When retrieved, the toy ship contained nothing but a handwritten note on actual paper, a material so archaic that Officer Teeve had to explain what it was to the younger crew members. The note contained just 2 words. "Knock knock." The Star Wanderer looked like 1,000 other human cargo vessels, a patchwork of mismatched hull plates, outdated propulsion systems, and the kind of utilitarian aesthetic that suggested function over form. Its transponder identified it as a commercial hauler registered to Jupiter's Shipping Guild, currently on a routine resource run. Lieutenant Sofia Reyes lounged in the captain's chair, boots propped on the console, munching an apple with theatrical casualness. At 32, she had the lean build of someone raised in Mars's lower gravity, and the perpetually amused expression of someone who knew a joke nobody else did. "Hegemony vessel still shadowing us, Lieutenant," reported Ensign Chen from the sensor station, a nervous edge to his voice. "They're maintaining distance but definitely tracking our movements." Sofia took another bite of apple, chewing thoughtfully. "Let them look. We're just honest cargo haulers minding our business, right?" She winked at Chen, who managed a nervous smile in return. "I'm going to check on that coolant leak in Section 4. Keep us on this heading, nice and boring." Once out of the bridge, Sofia's casual demeanor shifted subtly. She moved with purpose down a maintenance corridor, stopping at what appeared to be an ordinary storage locker. She placed her palm against the scanner, hidden beneath a loose panel, and whispered, "Lucy in the sky." The back wall of the locker slid open, revealing a small chamber filled with advanced communications equipment that definitely wasn't standard issue for a civilian cargo hauler. Sofia slipped inside, and the wall closed behind her. Admiral Collins' weathered face appeared on the secure channel, the transmission bouncing through 7 different relays to mask its origin. "Report, Lieutenant. They took the bait, Admiral. The inevitable victory has been tailing us for 6 hours since we passed Epsilon 12. Collins smiled thinly. "And our little present?" "Delivered as planned. You should have seen their boarding party scrambling back to their ship." Sofia chuckled. "I'd pay good credits to see Draz'Kul's face right about now. You might get that chance sooner than expected. Remember your parameters, Lieutenant. Keep them interested, keep them following, but don't let them catch you until you reach the designated coordinates." "Don't worry, Admiral." Sofia's eyes gleamed with mischief. "I've got a few tricks that will drive our bug-named friends absolutely crazy." Commander Draz'Kul was not having a good day. "What do you mean, lost them?" he bellowed, his exoskeleton flushing a dangerous shade of crimson. "How does a third-rate human cargo vessel simply disappear from the scopes of the most advanced tracking system in the quadrant?" The sensor officer's appendages trembled. It's inexplicable, Commander. One moment they were there, the next, nothing. Then they reappeared 20,000 kilometers off our port bow. Impossible. That would require jump capabilities which no civilian vessel possesses." Officer Teeve cleared his throat. "Sir, perhaps they're using some kind of sensor jamming technology?" "On a cargo hauler?" Draz'Kul scoffed. "That ship is held together with welds and prayers. There's no way it could." "Commander," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." The view screen flickered to life, showing Sofia Reyes's grinning face. She appeared to be eating something. "Ahoy there, big bug ship," she called cheerfully, taking another bite of her apple. "Is there a reason you're following little old us through 3 sectors? If you wanted an autograph, you could have just asked." Draz'Kul's mandibles clicked in fury. "Human vessel, you are suspected of espionage against the Hegemony. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Sofia put on an expression of exaggerated shock. "Espionage? Us? We're just humble cargo haulers delivering," she checked a manifest, "artificial sweeteners and toilet paper to the mining colony on Ganymede." She leaned forward conspiratorially. "Between us, those miners go through toilet paper like you wouldn't believe. You were observed in proximity to monitoring station Epsilon 12, shortly before a security incident. Submit to boarding immediately or face destruction. Sofia sighed dramatically. Well, when you put it that way, catch us if you can. The transmission cut off. Maximum pursuit, roared Draz'Kul. All weapon systems online. What followed was perhaps the most humiliating 3 days in Commander Draz'Kul's distinguished career. The Star Wanderer proved impossible to catch, always remaining just outside weapons range, appearing and disappearing from sensors without explanation. Whenever the inevitable victory got close, critical systems would mysteriously malfunction. The targeting system is recalibrating itself to track a vessel 1/10 the size of the human ship, reported a baffled weapons officer on the first day. Our engines are responding to commands in reverse, complained engineering on the second day. Full thrust forward results in deceleration. Sir, said the communications officer on the third day. They're broadcasting again, but it appears to be dialogue from ancient human entertainment. Sofia's voice came through the speakers. You'll always remember this as the day you almost caught Captain Jack Sparrow. While Draz'Kul's rage reached legendary proportions, culminating in him physically tearing a malfunctioning console from its moorings and hurling it across the bridge, Officer Teeve spent his off-duty hours in the ship's archives. Commander, he reported, I've been researching human naval history. Their pre-space maritime forces often employed what they called mosquito tactics, small, agile vessels harassing larger ships, drawing them into unfavorable positions. What's your point, officer? Draz'Kul snapped. I believe we're being baited, sir. The humans want us to follow them for some reason. Then we shall not give them what they want, Draz'Kul declared. Break off pursuit immediately. Too late for that, sir, Teeve said quietly. I've already taken the liberty of analyzing their course. They're heading toward the Cassini Gap in Saturn's rings. Saturn? Draz'Kul's antennae twitched nervously. Why would they? Both officers fell silent, remembering Professor Zilk'thar's supposedly mythical ghost of Saturn. Request reinforcements, Draz'Kul ordered. Every available ship. By the time the Star Wanderer reached the outer edges of a dense asteroid field near Saturn, 6 additional Hegemony warships had joined the hunt. The inevitable victory led the formation, with the human vessel finally trapped against the impenetrable field of tumbling space rocks. Nowhere left to run, Draz'Kul announced with savage satisfaction. Victory is inevitable, just as our ship's name promises. Sir, Teeve ventured, does this asteroid field correspond with any known navigational charts? An excellent observation, Officer Teeve, Draz'Kul replied, his good humor restored by imminent triumph. It does not appear on any charts, likely a recent formation. Fortunate for us, unfortunate for our elusive human friends. On the bridge of the Star Wanderer, Sofia Reyes smiled as she opened a channel to all 7 Hegemony vessels. Well, folks, looks like you got me cornered, she said cheerfully. 7 warships against little old me. How very brave of you. Commander Draz'Kul's mandibles clicked rhythmically, the Hegemony equivalent of cracking knuckles before a satisfying task. He gestured for the communications officer to open a channel to the cornered human vessel. Lieutenant Sofia Reyes, he began, savoring each syllable. I must commend you on providing my crew with such entertaining pursuit. Few have managed to evade the inevitable victory for so long. He paused dramatically, antennae quivering with anticipation. However, as you can plainly see, your primitive evasion tactics have reached their inevitable conclusion. On the view screen, Sofia yawned theatrically. Unperturbed, Draz'Kul continued his carefully prepared speech. The Hegemony has existed for 12,000 years, perfecting the art of warfare while your ancestors were still discovering how to make fire. Our 7 vessels represent the pinnacle of technological achievement, each capable of reducing entire continents to ash. You face not merely ships, but the culmination of evolution itself, species that have transcended the limitations that still bind humanity. He leaned forward, enormous compound eyes glittering. So, I offer you this single opportunity for mercy. Surrender your vassal, confess to espionage against the hegemony, and your death will be swift rather than the educational spectacle I would otherwise arrange for my crew's enlightenment. Sofia took a bite from a fresh apple. Where did she keep getting those? And nodded, as if considering his offer. That's a really impressive speech, she said around a mouthful of fruit. Did you rehearse it in front of a mirror? No, wait. You guys have compound eyes. Are mirrors even a thing for you? She swallowed and smiled brightly. Anyway, thanks for bringing your friends. We were hoping for a bigger audience. Draz'Kul's head tilted in confusion. We? Sofia winked. Showtime. The Star Wanderer suddenly emitted a blinding pulse of energy that washed over the asteroid field. The Hegemony ship's sensors temporarily whited out, and when they recalibrated, something impossible was happening. The asteroids were moving. Not randomly tumbling, as space debris should, but moving with purpose, shifting into new configurations, their surfaces rippling like liquid. What trickery is this? Draz'Kul demanded, rising from his command chair. Officer Teve's voice was barely audible. Sir, the asteroids, they're not asteroids. As if responding to his realization, the entire field began to change. What had appeared to be countless tumbling rocks now flowed together like mercury, surfaces shimmering as what could only be described as the galaxy's largest cloaking field collapsed in on itself. Where the asteroid field had been, a massive warship now hung in space. Its hull was unlike anything in Hegemony records, a seamless blend of metallic surfaces and what appeared to be organic components that pulsed with internal light. The vessel dwarfed even the largest Hegemony cruiser, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Most disturbing of all, parts of the ship seemed to shimmer in and out of visibility, as if not entirely committed to existing in a single dimension. Impossible, whispered Draz'Kul. It cannot be. The ghost of Saturn, Officer Teve finished, his skin blanched a pale white with fear. The communication system activated without Hegemony authorization. Admiral Collins' weathered face appeared on every screen of all 7 ships simultaneously. Greetings, Commander Draz'Kul, she said calmly. I believe you've been looking for us. Draz'Kul struggled to maintain composure. This deception changes nothing. Your single vessel, no matter how large, cannot hope to withstand 7 Hegemony warships. Collins smiled, the serene expression of a chess player who had foreseen this exact position 20 moves earlier. You misunderstand the situation, Commander. This isn't a battle. It's a product demonstration. She gestured to someone off-screen, and the view changed to show an enormous chamber filled with data screens displaying Hegemony ship schematics, weapons configurations, and defense patterns, all labeled with precise timestamps from the previous 3 days. You see, Collins continued, the Star Wanderer was gathering telemetry data on your weapons systems, shield modulations, and communication protocols each time you attempted to capture it. Lieutenant Reyes performed admirably in keeping you frustrated enough to try everything in your arsenal, giving us a comprehensive data set on Hegemony military capabilities. The view returned to Collins, now standing on what was clearly the Ghost's bridge, a vast chamber where officers worked at stations partially integrated with what appeared to be living tissue. Allow me to formally introduce the AES Phantom, though I understand you prefer the more colorful Ghost of Saturn. Collins ran her hand along a console that pulsed in response to her touch. She wasn't missing all these years, Commander. She was being built, molecule by molecule, using technology we've kept hidden from the Hegemony for generations. Draz'Kul's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. You expect me to believe humans possessed this technology during the Great Solar Conflict? Impossible. Oh, we didn't have it then, Collins admitted. But we needed the Hegemony to think we did. The legend of the Ghost gave us cover to develop the real thing while you dismissed it as mythology. She smiled again. Your Professor Zilk'thar was partially correct. The Ghost is mythological warfare. We just took it a step further and made the myth real. On the inevitable Victory's Bridge, Officer Teve whispered, a psychological operation spanning decades. All vessels, Draz'Kul ordered, his voice strained. Target the human ship and fire all weapons simultaneously on my mark. Sofia's voice cut in cheerfully. I wouldn't do that if I were you. But then again, I'm just a humble cargo hauler. What do I know? Draz'Kul's command reverberated across the Hegemony battle network. Fire! 7 warships, representing the pinnacle of Hegemony military technology, unleashed their full arsenals simultaneously. Energy beams of various destructive frequencies converged on the ghost of Saturn in a deadly rainbow of annihilation. Missile salvos followed, their antimatter warheads designed to tear apart the fabric of reality itself. Officer Teve closed all 4 of his eyes, unable to watch the overkill spectacle. A heartbeat later, he opened them again, confused by the absence of a cataclysmic explosion. The ghost still hung in space, completely undamaged. Worse, its hull now pulsed with the same energy signatures as the Hegemony weapons, the color rippling across its surface like oil on water. Status report, Draz'Kul demanded, his exoskeleton paling to a sickly gray. Sir, our sensors indicate all weapons found their target, but, the tactical officer's voice faltered, the enemy vessel appears to be absorbing the energy. Admiral Collins' voice came through with infuriating calmness. The Phantom's hull is composed of an adaptive metamaterial we call quantum fabric. It doesn't deflect energy weapons, it captures and redistributes their energy through the ship's systems. Her tone became almost apologetic. Thank you for the power boost, by the way. We were running a bit low after maintaining the asteroid field projection for so long. As if demonstrating her point, the ghost began to move, accelerating with impossible speed for a vessel of its size. Its massive form slipped between 2 Hegemony cruisers with ballistic precision, passing close enough to make their captains flinch. All vessels, evasive maneuvers, Draz'Kul ordered. Maintain formation delta and... He never finished the command. The ghost suddenly flickered and reappeared behind the Hegemony formation. Not turned around, it had somehow passed through the formation itself. Impossible, someone shouted on the open channel. Collins' voice returned. I suppose now is a good time to demonstrate the Phantom drive. Unlike conventional propulsion, it allows portions of our ship to temporarily exist in adjacent dimensional spaces, or in layman's terms, to pass through solid matter. To prove her point, the ghost accelerated toward one of the Hegemony destroyers. Just before impact, the forward section of the human vessel became translucent, ghost-like, and passed directly through the alien ship as if it were mist. The Hegemony crew screamed in terror as the enormous human warship phased through their vessel, momentarily visible through their bulkheads and consoles, before solidifying again on the other side. Fascinating, came a new voice on the command circuit. On the smallest Hegemony vessel, Cadet Vex'Loria, now Communications Officer Vex'Loria, was meticulously recording everything while her captain cowered behind his command chair. It's exactly as described in the Academy texts. The phasing technology corresponds precisely with Professor Zilk'thar's theoretical model. This isn't an academic exercise, you fool, her captain shrieked. It's a demon ship. Across the Hegemony fleet, discipline was crumbling. 2 ships collided while attempting to avoid the ghost's seemingly random maneuvers. Another fired on a friendly vessel, mistaking its silhouette for the human ship that kept appearing and disappearing from sensors. On the inevitable victory, Draz'Kul struggled to maintain control. Target their propulsion systems, he ordered. Sir, the weapons officer replied frantically. We can't get a targeting lock. The ship keeps partially shifting out of our dimension. A brilliant beam of concentrated energy struck the inevitable victory's main engines, causing multiple systems to fail instantaneously. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in ominous red. Engineering reports all propulsion systems offline, reported Officer Teve. And sir, there's something growing on the hull. Exterior cameras showed strange translucent tendrils spreading across the damaged sections of the ship's engines, extensions from the ghost that had attached themselves during a pass so quick it had barely registered on sensors. Biological components, Admiral Collins explained, as if narrating a nature documentary. self-repairing, self-evolving, and currently analyzing your propulsion systems while simultaneously preventing you from going anywhere. We borrowed the concept from deep-sea creatures on Earth. Amazing what you can learn from studying nature. Get those things off my ship, Draz'Kul shrieked. One by one, the 7 Hegemony vessels found themselves immobilized by the same method. Organic tendrils neutralizing key systems with surgical precision, without causing catastrophic damage or endangering crew. Only the inevitable victory continued fighting, Draz'Kul ordering manual targeting of all remaining weapons. "Commander?" Vex'loria's voice cut through the chaos, having patched herself into the fleet command channel. "I've been studying this vessel since the Academy. Its tactical pattern matches the theoretical model precisely. It's designed to neutralize rather than destroy. We should—" "Silence," Draz'Kul roared. "No mythological ghost ship will defeat the—" The ghost of Saturn suddenly appeared directly above the inevitable victory, so close that its enormous bulk filled the entire view screen. For a moment that stretched into eternity, the ships hung together in space. Predator and prey, myth and reality. Then the ghost extended what could only be described as a hand, an enormous mechanical appendage that reached down and gently, almost tenderly, plucked the inevitable victory's remaining weapon arrays from its hull, like someone removing thorns from a pet. Admiral Collins appeared on all screens one final time. "Commander Draz'Kul, you are defeated. Your vessels have been neutralized, but your crews remain unharmed. We could have destroyed you at any point, but that was never our intention." "Then what is your intention?" Draz'Kul asked, his once imperious voice barely a whisper. "To deliver a message," Collins replied. "The human-led alliance is extending an invitation to peace negotiations. The Phantom will escort your disabled vessels to the rendezvous coordinates." She smiled thinly. "Consider this demonstration our opening argument." Commander Draz'Kul stood rigidly on the bridge of the disabled inevitable victory, his once pristine exoskeleton now dulled with stress. The silence among his command crew was broken only by the soft pings of emergency backup systems. Admiral Collins' weathered face appeared on the main view screen, her expression neither triumphant nor mocking, merely businesslike. "Commander Draz'Kul, I'm transmitting terms for your formal surrender. As you can see, they're quite reasonable." Draz'Kul skimmed the document appearing on his personal tablet, mandibles clicking with surprise. "These terms? They're merely requesting safe passage and diplomatic recognition. No reparations, no territorial concessions." "We're not interested in humiliating the Hegemony," Collins replied. "Nor are we barbarians seeking conquest. We simply wanted you to know what you're up against, should you choose to continue hostilities." Draz'Kul's compound eyes shifted nervously. "Your vessel could have destroyed my entire fleet." "Yes," Collins acknowledged simply. "We could have, at any point during the past 3 days." "Then why didn't you?" Officer Teeve asked, stepping forward. "Hegemony doctrine dictates that superior force should always be applied to maximum effect." Collins smiled, a genuine expression that reached her eyes. "That's the difference between us, Officer Teeve. Humans understand that showing mercy isn't weakness. Sometimes the most powerful move in war is choosing not to destroy your enemy when you have every capability and justification to do so." She leaned forward. "I'm extending an invitation for representatives to come aboard the Phantom. We believe understanding is the first step toward peace." Draz'Kul's antennae twitched with indecision. "I volunteer," came Vex'loria's voice as she stepped onto the bridge, her translucent exoskeleton gleaming with a determined blue hue. "As a student of human tactics, I am the logical choice." "I'll accompany Officer Vex'loria," Teeve added quickly, ignoring Draz'Kul's glare. The shuttle ride to the Ghost was silent, both alien representatives lost in thought as they approached the vessel that had single-handedly neutralized 7 warships without destroying a single one. A docking bay opened like a living mouth in the ship's side, the interior illuminated by a soft bioluminescence that pulsed in patterns, suggesting conscious thought. Lieutenant Sofia Reyes waited as they disembarked, casually leaning against a corridor wall, still munching an apple. "Welcome aboard the Phantom," she said cheerfully. Though personally I prefer Ghost of Saturn. Has a nice spooky ring to it, don't you think? She led them through corridors that seemed to blend seamlessly between advanced metallurgy and organic components, walls that pulsed with light when touched, floors that adjusted slightly to make walking more comfortable for their alien biology. The ship is alive? Vex'loria asked, running a delicate appendage along a wall that glowed in response. Semi-sentient, Sofia corrected. A symbiotic relationship between biological systems and technological components. We grew her as much as we built her. They turned a corner and entered what should have been, by any military logic, a high-secrecy command center. Instead, they found Admiral Collins seated at a table with several other officers, playing what appeared to be a board game. Someone had hung colorful decorations on the walls, and a cake sat on a side table. "Sorry for the informality," Collins said, rising to greet them. "Lieutenant Jankowski's birthday. Tradition comes first, even in wartime." She gestured to the game board. "Ever played Settlers of Catan? It's been popular for centuries." As the tour continued, Vex'loria and Teve were increasingly bewildered not by the advanced technology, which was indeed revolutionary, but by the casual, almost relaxed atmosphere aboard a vessel that had just changed the balance of power in the quadrant. In engineering, Collins explained the ship's most remarkable feature. The Phantom wasn't constructed in the traditional sense. We literally grew her using bioengineered templates based on Earth coral reefs. The organic components self-replicate and evolve to meet new challenges. Like the tendrils that disabled our ships, Teve noted. Precisely. They adapted uniquely to each vessel they encountered. But why develop such technology in secret? Vex'loria asked. The Hegemony has always believed humans to be technologically inferior. Collins smiled. And that misconception was our greatest advantage. 5 years later, Professor Vex'loria adjusted her academic sash, emerald green, like her former teachers, as a fresh batch of cadets filed into the auditorium. The course designation on the holographic display read, Human Tactical Innovation, mandatory for all command track students. She waited for the class to settle before beginning. The ghost of Saturn isn't a myth, she stated without preamble. I've been aboard it. The stunned silence was exactly what she'd hoped for. And the most terrifying thing wasn't the technology, though it was indeed beyond anything in our archives. No, the truly frightening thing was the humans, playing board games and throwing a birthday party in the middle of a war zone. A cadet in the front row raised an appendage hesitantly. Professor, are humans really that dangerous? Vex'loria's exoskeleton shifted to a thoughtful blue as she considered the question. No, cadet, she finally answered. There's something much worse. They're unpredictable, adaptable, and they have a terrible sense of humor. She gestured to the peace treaty displayed on the wall of her classroom. And that, cadets, is why we signed the peace treaty. She tapped her lecturing staff for attention. Today we begin with human concepts that have no direct translation into any hegemony language. First, thinking outside the box. Second, fake it till you make it. And finally, the most dangerous concept of all, hold my beer and watch this.